All right, we're going to dive into some ancient epics today to ask a question that feels, well, incredibly modern. We're talking about these epic divine weapons, powerful chants, and warriors who could literally summon unimaginable destruction. But was it really magic, or was it something else? What if the line between sorcery and software is way, way thinner than we think? Let's get into it.
So here's the big idea we're exploring. You look at epics like the Mahabharata, and you find that the most powerful weapons weren't just, shot from a bow. No, they had to be activated by very specific chants. The weapon itself was called an Astra, and that activation chant was a mantra. The simplest way to think about it, the Astra is the hardware, and the mantra is its voice-activated launch code.
And the rules for this? They were brutally unforgiving. I mean, if you got the pronunciation absolutely perfect, you could unleash cosmic power. But, and this is a huge but, if you made one tiny mistake, a single syllable off-key, the whole system would either fail, or even worse, it could turn right back on you. Doesn't that sound less like a magical spell and more like a really high-stakes, super rigid operating system?
Okay, so if it's a system, how did it know who was speaking? This is where our modern world actually gives us a surprisingly clear parallel. It brings us to our first major point, the mantra as a kind of futuristic biometric password.
A lot of us use this kind of tech every single day, maybe to unlock our phones. Voice biometric authentication, it's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it. It analyzes your unique vocal signature. It's a security system that's based on the one thing that nobody can steal, the actual physical sound of your voice.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because look how perfectly these ancient and modern concepts just line up. The Sanskrit texts were very specific that these mantras were defined by their swara, that's the unique pitch and tone of the warrior. This is basically identical to a modern voice print, which analyzes frequency and pitch. So the ancient system, just like ours, was relying on a vocal signature that was totally unique to one single user.
And this just drives the whole point home. The source material couldn't be clearer. These weapons were literally bound to an individual. The mantra wasn't just some password anyone could learn and repeat. Nope. It was an acoustic key, a biometric signature that proved the operator was the authorized user, allowed to bypass all the weapons safety protocols and bring the thing online. So, okay, if the voice is the key, then what about the lock? To understand that, we need to zoom out a bit and look at the entire system. Let's try to re-engineer these so-called divine weapons as if they were pieces of a really sophisticated tech stack.
This table right here, this is basically our Rosetta Stone for this whole concept. Just think of the deity, someone like Indra or Agni, not as a god up in the sky, but as a central cloud server, the main power source. The Astra, the weapon itself, that's like an autonomous AI agent, the program that's being deployed. And the mantra? Well, that's the voice-authenticated API key. It's the trigger script that tells the server to go ahead and run the program.
So when you boil it all down, launching an Astra was a lot like making a modern API call. It's a three-step process. Step 1, authentication, the warrior chants, providing their unique voice print. Step 2 is execution. The deity server validates that biometric API key and says, yep, you have permission. And then finally, step 3, deployment. The Astra AI weapon is launched, an autonomous agent sent on its way to the target.
But what happens when the code is bad? This is where the analogy gets really, really compelling. Because these ancient texts are just full of warnings about what we would now call, well, a catastrophic system failure.
Let's look at a pretty famous case. There was a sage named Tvashta, and he was trying to create this demon that would kill the god Indra. So he chants the mantra Indra Shatru. Here's the problem. He messed up the accent. Just a tiny phonetic mistake. He meant to say slayer of Indra, but what the system actually heard was slain by Indra. The result? He accidentally created a demon that was immediately killed by the very enemy he was trying to destroy. Talk about a fatal bug.
Now, to anyone who's ever written code, this is going to feel instantly recognizable. In a language like Python, if you forget something as simple as a colon at the end of a function definition, the code just won't run. That's it. It's a syntax error, a hard failure. The system doesn't try to guess what you meant. It sees the mistake and it just crashes.
And here's the exact same logic from the ancient story. That shifted vocal accent in Sanskrit, it acted just like that misplaced colon in Python. It was a syntax error that didn't just fail to work, it executed the complete opposite of what the user wanted. Those rigid phonetic rules were basically the syntax of a machine-readable language.
So when you start putting all these different pieces together, you've got the biometric keys, the
the API calls to a central server, the fatal consequences of syntax errors, it really starts to paint a very, very different picture of these ancient heroes.
Which brings us to our final big question. Was a warrior wielding one of these Astras really a wizard casting some kind of mystical spell? Or were they a highly trained, authorized operator using precise biometric voice commands to execute a program on an incredibly advanced autonomous weapon system?
Maybe the most powerful way to look at all this is just to say it plainly. The mantra was the code and the Astra was the hardware. The ancient world may not have been filled with magic, but with a technology so advanced that, to us, it's pretty much indistinguishable from it. It's a fascinating lens to view the past, and it really suggests the line between mythology and technology might be way blurrier than we ever imagined.